Our First Amendment rights are being eroded, trampled on, destroyed, and I am very worried that once this all ends, hopefully it will, I'm worried that our rights will be suppressed. You know, it's going to be like a pre 9/11, post 9/11 thing. We're going to have our rights stripped. Right now, you've got the government saying you can't assemble, you can't go in groups. We understand why. We agree with it. We're scared. The virus is dangerous, and it really is, and we should be worried. But should we give up our rights? Perhaps there is some responsibility we must take to protect each other in these trying times, but there needs to be time limits on these things, and we need to make sure we stay vigilant. Seattle police chief, call 911 when you hear hate speech. Here it comes. Under the pretext of the coronavirus, our rights will be ripped away faster than you realize. The Daily Caller reports, Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best told city residents Monday to call 911 if they hear racist name calling. As Washington state continues to battle new coronavirus infections, Best decided to focus on hate speech. How do you call the cops on someone for speaking? We have a First Amendment right to say what we want. If somebody wants to be a jerk and say mean things, they're allowed to do it. I don't like it. I wouldn't want to hang out with them, but they're allowed to do it. You see where this is going. They say, quote, Washington state is no place for hate. In a show of solidarity, Lori Matsukawa joined me to remind everyone that hate has no place in our community. Report hate, including racist name calling to 911. We are here to help and will respond to investigate. Investigate what? Free speech? Why would you call 911? It's not even an emergency. What, you're going to displace firefighters and cops for this? Apparently so. Let's see what else they have. I got a couple other stories too, as well. Matsukawa, a former local news personality, has joined Best in her campaign, according to Reason.com. Hate crimes have no place in our community. We are all trying to deal with COVID-19, the public health crisis, together. If you are a victim of a hate crime or hate-based harassment, please call 911. We will document and investigate every reported hate crime. Even racist name calling should be reported to the police. If you aren't sure if a hate crime occurred, call 911. Yes, that's what the police should be dealing with. Great. Seattle is known for its progressive policies, and its public school board recently declared math to be racist. Oh, that's great. The Seattle Police Officers Guild, SPOG, is very concerned about the coronavirus pandemic and has criticized the decision of the local national public radio station to stop airing the regular coronavirus task force briefings from Washington. In light of the recent decisions made by a public news affiliate, SPOG will be live streaming all the White House's press COVID-19 briefings on our social media channels, SPOG President Mike Solon said in a statement. Well, it's not just what's happening in Seattle. It is, you know what, man? I understand why they want to enforce these rules, right? Cuomo says NYPD needs to enforce social distancing rules. I get it. People are ignoring it. They're breaking the rules. They're going out, they're partying, and it's going to result in people getting hurt, getting sick, and it's going to make the problem worse for everybody. But I am worried. The Hill reports New York Governor Andrew Cuomo called on the New York City police to do more to enforce social distancing measures, saying he may be forced to mandate social distancing by law. Cuomo on Tuesday said young people are not abiding by social distancing guidelines, which is forcing him to consider drastic actions. The NYPD has to get more aggressive, period, Cuomo said, referring to the New York Police Department. If you're going to force me into a position where I have to mandate it and make it a law, a social distancing law, which I think is absurd, but it has to be enforced. Cuomo said he is closing all the city's playgrounds because voluntary compliance did not work. He said he had been warning for weeks that playgrounds would be shut if people did not follow the social distancing guidelines to reduce density in the city. I've said this 100 different ways, but compliance is still not where it should be. How reckless and irresponsible and selfish for people not to do it on their own. I mean, what else do you have to know? What else do you have to hear? Who else has to die for you to understand you have a responsibility in this, he asked. Cuomo said open spaces at local parks will remain open so people can get outside and exercise. And you know what? People are going to be cheering for him. They're going to be agreeing with him. They're going to be calling for it. And in fact, in Florida, someone's already suing the government, demanding they shut down beaches. The First Amendment gets trampled on, and this is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause. We have another story here. This is from the Christian Post. Citing First Amendment, outspoken minority of pastors refuse to close churches amid pandemic. It seems to me the Christian Post definitely wants to distance themselves from many of these pastors who are not abiding by social distancing. Because as far as I can tell, we've seen a large variety of stories where Churches have done like tele worship of some sort, or drive-through worship, or communion by the door. You can come and they maintain their distances, but there have been there's been a minority of individuals who refuse. Here's the thing. I think they're allowed to do it. This is the challenge. It's the First Amendment. You have a right to worship. You have a right to speech. You have a right to assembly. The Christian Post reports, citing First Amendment rights, an outspoken minority of pastors across the country are resisting calls from federal and local government authorities to close their churches amid the new coronavirus pandemic, despite facing fines and arrest. Some legal experts, however, disagree with using the First Amendment as a defense for disobeying government authorities in the throes of a pandemic. On Monday, Pastor Rodney Howard-Browne, leader of Revival International Ministries and the River at Tampa Bay Church in Florida, became the first high-profile pastor in the burgeoning movement to insist his First Amendment rights were being violated after he was arrested for leading 2 large worship services on Sunday. Howard-Browne was charged with unlawful assembly. Can that be? Is it possible? And violation of public health emergency rules, both second-degree misdemeanors, for intentionally and repeatedly hosting church services with hundreds of members in attendance, despite knowing he was in violation of a stay-at-home order issued by Governor Ron DeSantis of South Florida. The Hillsborough County Sheriff Office said, with legal help from the Liberty Counsel, a nonprofit litigation firm, Howard-Browne has decided to fight the charges. I know the sheriff said we can't hide behind the First Amendment, but we can because I was sworn in as a citizen of the Constitutional Republic of the United States, and I raised my hand to pledge to defend the Constitution of America against enemies foreign and domestic. He said during a Facebook Live broadcast Monday night, the nation is under attack, and whatever you give up this side, you will never get it back. I totally understand. Dare I say it? I agree. He's right. If we give up our rights now, don't be surprised if you don't get them back. They probably won't come back. If it's true what they're saying about a 2-year long period of 2 months on, 1 month off, then people will get into this habit and we will lose all of our rights. There is a conundrum, however. The coronavirus is going to kill a lot of people unless we do this. So you can choose to distrust the government, which is another serious problem. The government is telling us these things. Donald Trump is, Dr. Fauci. They're telling us that people, millions, could lose their lives. And we don't want to be responsible for that. But it also means we just trust them. Do they have any hard evidence that those numbers are accurate? We just don't know. We know that China lied about it. Could be worse than we know. In which case, do we just trust the government? Great moral and ethical conundrums that I just can't answer. There's a limit. I'll put it this way. For me, I will absolutely abide by all of these rules. But if there becomes an extended period and uncertainty and a lack of and a mistrust, and after several months there's no answers, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to, right? It's hard to know where the line is, but there needs to be an expiration for this. Virginia says June 10th. It seems like a long ways away. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should say it could be a decently long period, 6-7 months. I don't know. I'll play it by ear. I'm willing to do what I have to do to be responsible, to maintain and protect the rights, which means having a responsibility to my community and this country to do what the right thing is. If Trump and his task force say this is the best option, I will give them the benefit of the doubt for now. And I want to see that in the future, they give us, the evidence we need, or they relax these things when the time comes. I guess the bigger challenge right now is, does the government have the power to do this? They've already taken away our First Amendment. And if we let them do it now, they can do it later. Perhaps the real issue is that we need to resist this, even with all the detriments that come with it. Honestly, this is why so many people don't want to make the hard decision. It's easy to make the choice for yourself to say, I won't do this. But how do you make the call for everyone else? And that's the hard part. If you come out and say everyone should be allowed to gather if they want, then you're responsible when people lose their lives. If you come out and say no one should be allowed to travel or gather, then you are responsible for shutting down someone's constitutional rights. Nobody wants to be the person. That's why I keep saying I don't know. I know one thing. I would just leave and take care of myself, and perhaps that's a bigger problem. He argued it makes no sense that churches are being closed while stores like Walmart, Costco, and Lowe's Home Improvement were being allowed to operate. Restaurants, he highlighted, are also being allowed to serve takeout despite a clear risk to spreading the virus. As long as you keep Lowe's open and Walmart open, and Costco and every other place, and you go in there, talk about social distancing, it's insane. There's so many holes in this thing. Even the people who deliver the food. How do you know where the food's been cooked? Who's making it? How do you know that they don't have the virus? Somebody said, well, they're going to catch it at the church. I beg to differ. They're at a church one Sunday morning, and 6.5 days a week, they're everywhere else. How do you know it wasn't the last trolley where you put your groceries that wasn't infected? How do you know it wasn't the last restroom you went into? You don't actually know. I know America is fighting with each other right now, which is the whole narrative, man. Divide and conquer, he said. You know what? It's a good point, but I'll push back. There are some things we can't close, and that does give us a risk of infection. And there are some things we can close. I guess the bigger issue is that churches have larger congregations and would be a hotspot for transmission. So therein lies the big challenge. Walmart certainly is, Lowe's certainly is, but people need these things to survive. I guess the challenge is people have a right to worship. And does that make church an essential service? For a lot of people, it really is. So what do you do? I don't like the idea of the government being told they get a free pass on curtailing our rights. I don't. Don't look at me, man. I'm not going to be your thought leader on this one. I'll point it out. I'll point out my fears, but I can't make the decision, which is why I never want to be a leader of any of these groups or make these choices because someone will have to. I got one more segment for you in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.